Today I'll be working in my workbook called Promised Line from Isaac through Jacob, and this book covers Genesis chapters 25, verse 19 through chapters 31, verse 55. We have already covered the first and second chapters of this book, so today we'll be talking about chapter 3, Isaac's blessings. So let me get there. Chapter 3, Isaac's Blessings, Genesis 26:34 through chapter 27:46. Genesis 26:34. When Esau was 40 years old, he married Judith, daughter of Beri the Hittite, and also Basemath, daughter of Elon the Hittite. They were a source of grief to Isaac and Rebekah. Esau will eventually have three wives, two of which we meet here. All three will not be acceptable wives, as they are all idolaters. His union with the two Canaanite women here were against the wishes of his parents. Hittite women were considered heathens of Canaan at that time. How old was Esau when he married his two wives? 40 years of age. This would make Isaac 120 years of age and Rebekah about 100 years of age. Jacob, the same age as Esau, is not yet married. What were the names of Esau's two wives? Judith and Basemath. It is believed that they are also called Oholibah, Oholibamah, and Adah. Esau's third wife will also be called Basemath. What tribe are they both from? Hittite. The Hittites were Canaanites that lived in the land. Hittites came from Heth, who was the son of Canaan, the grandson of Ham. Was there a good relationship between Rebekah, Isaac, and Esau's wives? Absolutely not. Now remember that these wives often would live in Rebekah's tents or areas, and they just did not get along. What would be the basic reason why Judith and Basemath would be a source of grief for Isaac and Rebekah? Because they were from the Canaanites and therefore had their idol worship there. Therefore, were not continuing the line of God that Isaac had known all his life. When Isaac was old and his eyes were so weak that he could no longer see, he called for Esau, his older son, and said to him, "My son?" "Here I am," he answered. Isaac has two physical problems at this point in his life. What are they? They are old and his eyes are very weak, so much so that he couldn't see. Based on calculations on the life of Jacob, Jacob was probably 77 years of age when this happened. Since Isaac was 60 at the birth of Jacob and Esau, he would have been between 137 years of age when this happens. He will continue to live until the age of 80. Rebekah is roughly 117 years of age at this time. This would also mean that Esau has been married for 37 years already, so the source of grief of Esau's marriages would have existed for a long time. Who did Isaac call to his side? He called Esau. Did Isaac have a preference between Esau and Jacob? Definitely. Who did he prefer more? Esau. Why? Because he made wonderful stew. There are at least three reasons why Isaac should not be favoring Esau over Jacob. They are in Genesis 25:23, Rebekah was told by God that the older will serve the younger. In Genesis 25:31-32, Esau gave up his birthright. And Genesis 26:34-35, Esau married Canaanite women. So there's three reasons why Isaac shouldn't be favoring Esau, but he is. So the scriptures continue. Isaac said, "I am now an old man and don't know the day of my death. Now then, get your equipment, your quiver and bow, and go out to the open country to hunt some wild game for me. Prepare me the kind of tasty food I like, and bring it to me to eat so that I may give you my blessing before I die." What does Esau hunt with? bow and quiver. What does Isaac want Esau to do? Hunt some wild game and prepare for him to eat. In return for the food, what is Isaac going to do for Esau? He is going to bless him. Another interesting observation, is there anyone else around when Isaac makes this request, at least to Isaac's knowledge? To Isaac's knowledge, there's nobody around, but we will find out that there's at least someone listening. It appears he will be making this blessing just between him and Esau, with others not around to even see or hear it. If God has a plan, can we thwart the plan by doing something in secret? No. Is anything hidden from God? No. Does he already know what we're going to do before we do it? Yes. So did God already know that Isaac was going to try this? Yes. The scriptures continue. Now Rebekah was listening as Isaac spoke to his son Esau. When Esau left for the open country to hunt game and bring it back, Rebekah said to her son Jacob, "Look, I've overheard your father say to your brother Esau, 'Bring me some game and prepare me some tasty food to eat, so that I may give you my blessing in the presence of the Lord before I die.' Now, my son, listen carefully and do what I tell you." Who was listening when Isaac spoke to Esau? Rebekah. Who did she tell what she overheard? Jacob. Who did Rebekah favor, Jacob or Esau? She favored Jacob. Okay, we see Rebekah taking matters in her own hands. Does God need us to fix things for him? No, he doesn't. Did God already know which son continued the promised line? Absolutely. When we take matters in our own hands and not allow God to do his will when the time is right, we will usually suffer. See how the following people suffered by doing what God wanted before the right time. The result of Sarah giving her handmaid Hagar to Abram to have a child was that Ishmael was born, the head of the Arab nation, which is an enemy of Israel. The result of Moses killing the Egyptian overseer was that he had to flee to Midian for 40 years before he led his people. Both of these people, Sarah and Moses, knew of the prophecy to come, and they tried to make it happen. We need to relax and let God do it. Hang on just a second. Despite my background, I'm in my office and sometimes there's other noises. Scriptures continue. Genesis 27:9. Go out to the flock and bring me 2 choice young goats. This is Rebekah talking to Jacob, so that I can prepare some tasty food for your father, just the way he likes it, and take it to your father to eat so that he may give you his blessing before he dies. What did Rebekah tell Jacob to get from the flock? 2 choice young goats. Isaac had told Esau to get some wild game. Although we normally don't eat goat nor wild game in today's world, do you think they would taste the same? I don't know that they would taste the same. A deer is the same as a goat, but maybe in her preparation, he won't be able to tell what kind of meat they have. How do you think goat meat could be passed off as wild game? Is it how it's fixed like a stew, or that Isaac can no longer tell the difference in meat? I think either one's possible. He is elderly and maybe his taste buds aren't real well, or the fact that the savory stew may be seasoned such a way you couldn't tell which meat you have. Does this mean that Rebecca knows how to cook well too? Absolutely. Seems Rebecca taught both her boys how to cook. Who is Rebecca going to have serve the food to Isaac? Jacob. Who really directs our paths, our fathers or God himself? God himself. Isaac was guilty of thinking he could change the plans of God, but so is Rebecca as well, in thinking that God can't override Isaac's plan to bless Esau over Jacob. If Jacob is successful in deceiving his father, how much of the guilt of deception lies with him over his mother? Is she totally to blame, or could he have said no to the deception? I think they're both will be at fault for cheating the blessing. However, Isaac should not be going against God either. The scriptures continue. Genesis 27:11. Jacob said to Rebekah his mother, "But my brother Esau is a hairy man, while I have smooth skin. What if my father touches me? I will appear to be tricking him and will bring down a curse on myself rather than a blessing." His mother said to him, "My son, let the curse fall on me. Just do what I say. Go and get them for me." Did Jacob wonder how this deception would get past his father? Absolutely. Let's consider for a moment the objection that Jacob presents. Does he say, "I'm the better son, I deserve the blessing over Esau"? No. Does he say, "My stupid father doesn't remember what God said about me"? No. Does he even suggest to pretend he is Esau when he serves his father? Hmm. Uh, he he doesn't suggest to pretend. That's Rebecca that will get that impression, even though he gives her maybe a hint of what she needs to do. D, is he the one that decides to deceive his father? No, Rebecca is. If Isaac wants to curse Jacob, then what would Rebecca say? The curse will fall on her. Basically, if discovered, she will tell Isaac it was her idea to trick him, and Jacob was only doing what she told him to do. So consider your answer to number 7 on the previous page. Do you still have an opinion? Why? The same opinion. We always have opinions. Same. What's on number 7? Um, so my answer on number 7 had to do with who would be carrying the blame for the deception. Right now, it's heavy on Rebecca, and Jacob is just doing what his mother's telling him to do. He's seeing the fault of it, but she's wanting to make sure it's done. So the fault more lies in Rebecca than Jacob at this point. The scriptures continue. Genesis 27:14. So we went and got them and brought them to his mother, and she prepared some tasty food, just the way his father liked it. Then Rebekah took the best clothes of Esau, her older son, which she had in the house, and put them on her younger son, Jacob. She also covered his hands and the smooth part of his neck with the goat skins. Then she handed to her son, Jacob, the tasty food and the bread she had made. What was the first thing Rebekah did to disguise Jacob? She took the best clothes of Esau and dressed Jacob in them. Why would Esau's best clothes be in Rebekah's possession if he had wives and therefore did not live with Rebekah and Isaac? This is a no. What was the second thing Rebekah did to disguise Jacob? Uh, she also covered his hands and the smooth part of his neck with goat skins. Aside from the meat, what other food was Jacob going to be giving Isaac? Bread. Since Isaac cannot see well, he would depend on his touch. What does the scripture suggest he will touch? Both his neck and his hands, his arms. Since Isaac cannot see well, he would also depend on his sense of smell. What would he smell? A tasty food in the bread that Rebecca had made. I would imagine that it would be a stew, but the scriptures continue. Genesis 27:18. He went to his father and said, "My father." "Yes, my son," he answered. "Who is it?" Jacob said to his father, "I am Esau, your firstborn. I have done as you told me. Please sit up and eat some of my game so that you may give me your blessing." Isaac asked his son, "Why did you find it so quickly, my son?" "The Lord your God gave me success," he replied. Even though Jacob talked first, did Isaac immediately accept that the voice came from Esau? Hmm. No, he didn't. He said, "Who is it?" And so Jacob had to make sure he realized it was Esau. Who did Jacob say he was? Jacob said he was Esau, so his first lie. Isaac still has another question in an attempt to verify who it was. What was his next question? How did you find the food so quickly? So he's questioning the timing too. How did Jacob find the wild game so quickly? He got a goat from their herd, and his mom made it much quicker than getting wild game. Number 5, prior to this point, the guilt for the deception was all on Rebekah. Should Jacob now take some of the blame for deceiving Isaac? Yes, he's definitely lying to his father. He didn't have to do that, lie to his father. So he's definitely lying to his father. Does God need our help to make things happen the way he is planning for them to happen? No. So do you think Jacob will have somehow received the blessing without the deception? Uh, God usually makes things happen the way he wants. So somehow he would have made it happen anyway. We don't know how, though. The scriptures continue. Then Isaac said to Jacob, "Come near so I can touch you, my son, to know whether you really are my son Esau or not." Jacob went close to his father Isaac, who touched him and said, "The voice is the voice of Jacob, but the hands are the hands of Esau." He did not recognize him, for his hands were hairy like those of his brother Esau, so he proceeded to bless him. "Are you really my son Esau?" he asked. "I am," he replied. Then he said, "My son, bring me some of your game to eat so that I may give you my blessing." Jacob brought it to him and he ate, and he brought some wine and he drank. Did Jacob disguise his voice? No, not to my knowledge. What did Isaac depend on more, his hearing or his touch? He depended more on his touch and considered his hearing faulty. Did Isaac ask again if it was Esau or Jacob? Yes, he did. He asked again, "Are you really my son Esau?" How many lies can you count that Jacob is making all during this charade? Well, let's see. How many lies? I am Esau, your firstborn. That's one. And 2, as far as making it from wild game. Again, he says that he's Esau. And so at least 3 times. At least 3 times. See if I had thought of any others. Question number 4. Let's see. Question number 4. See if I have any others. Let's see. Question number 4. How many lies can you count on? So either 4 or 5 times. I also indicated possibly 5. So depends on what you came up with. Aside from meat and bread, what else did Jacob bring Isaac? Wine to drink. So the scriptures continue. Genesis 27:26. Then his father Isaac said to him, "Come here, my son, and kiss me." So he went to him and kissed him. When Isaac caught the smell of his clothes, he blessed him and said, "Ah, the smell of my son is like the smell of a field the Lord has blessed. May God give your heavens dew and earth's richness, an abundance of grain and new wine. May nations serve you and people bow down to you. Be Lord of your brothers and many, and may the sons of your mother bow down to you. May those who curse you be cursed, and those who bless you be blessed." How does the clothing of Esau become important? Because Isaac smells the clothing and recognizes Esau. And so that's what he smells. And the blessing of Isaac. Okay, so let's fill these in. May God give you heaven's dew and earth's richness and abundance of grain and new wine. May nations serve you and people bow down to you. C, be Lord over your brothers, and may the sons of your mother bow down to you. And D, may those who curse you be cursed, and those who bless you be blessed. This is the blessing to the son of promise and should not have been given to Esau in the first place. So the scriptures continue. Genesis 27:30. After Isaac finished blessing him, and Jacob had scarcely left his father's presence, his brother Esau came in from hunting. He too prepared some tasty food and brought it to his father. Then he said to him, "My father, please sit up and eat some of my game so that you may give me your blessing." His father Isaac asked him, "Who are you?" "I'm your son," he answered, "your firstborn Esau." How soon did Esau arrive? Just barely after Jacob left the tent of his father. Did Esau make some food for Isaac? Yes, he did. Did Isaac question who it was in his tent bringing him food? Yes. The author of Hebrews below talks of this time between Esau and Isaac. The author of Hebrews does not blame Rebekah and Jacob for the lack of blessing on Esau, but on what and whom. So let's see, Hebrews 12:16 and 17. See that no one is sexually immoral or is as godless as Esau, who for a single meal sold his inheritance rights as the eldest son. Afterward, as you know, when he wanted to inherit the blessing, he was rejected. Even though he sought the blessing with tears, he could not change what he had done. The author of Hebrews blames Esau totally for his lack of blessings. In the case of Esau and Jacob, we have both the example of free will and predetermination. God already decides who will continue the line of promise, but he does this knowing who Esau and Jacob will be even before they were born. Who decides to marry wives from the Hittites? This was not God forcing Esau to make this decision, but Esau's free will, which God had already seen. God makes his predetermined based on what he already knows will happen. So he had predetermined as they were born who was going to be the line of promise. And some people say, well, that's not fair. God sees the future as well as the past. He already knew how Esau would turn out. And so that's why he already knew by their birth. Scriptures continue. Genesis 27:33. Isaac trembled violently and said, "Who was it then that hunted game and brought it to me? I ate it just before you came, and I blessed him, and indeed he will be blessed." When Esau heard his father's words, he burst out with a loud and bitter cry and said to his father, "Bless me too, my father." But he said, "Your brother came deceitfully and took your blessing." Esau said, "Isn't he rightly named Jacob? This is the second time he has taken advantage of me. He took my birthright, and now he's taken my blessing." If you recall, Jacob means deceiver. And so that's where we know that he knows the definition of Jacob's name. Okay, in Isaac's question, do you think he realizes that it wasn't just Jacob that tricked him, but also his wife? Hmm. Yeah, I think he's figured it out that Jacob wouldn't have done all that planning, but his wife did as well. Or does he think Jacob is solely responsible? He does blame Jacob, but he would have to know that it isn't just Jacob that would have designed this. What's the definition of Jacob again? It's listed on page 12. It is cunning as deceiver, usurper. This is what Esau is referring to when he says he is rightly named Jacob. So reread Genesis 25:29 through 34. Did Jacob take advantage of Esau regarding his birthright? Genesis 25:29 through 35. No, he didn't take advantage of, Jacob didn't take advantage of Esau regarding his birthright. Remember, that's the story of Esau coming in from the fields, and Jacob had already had a lentil stew cooking, and Esau wanted some stew, and he traded his birthright for the stew. He could have found other things to eat, but his birthright was not as important to him as eating at that point. So no, Jacob didn't take advantage of him regarding his birthright. Who really gives the blessing, God or earthly fathers? God does. In Proverbs 16:4, the Lord works out everything to its proper end, even the wicked for a day of disaster. The scriptures continue. Genesis 27:36. Then he asked, "Haven't you reserved any blessing for me?" Isaac answered Esau, I have made him lord over you, and have made all his relatives his servants, and I have sustained him with grain and new wine. So what can I possibly do for you, my son?" Esau said to his father, "Do you have only one blessing, my father? Bless me too, my father." Then Esau wept aloud. Now we see how Isaac was trying to change God's plan by blessing Esau with every blessing he could think of. What does he ask Esau? "What could I possibly do for you, my son? I've given everything to Jacob." What is Jake Esau upset with? That you only have one blessing? I'm not going to get a blessing? Again, who really does the blessings? Our Father on earth or in heaven? God does. If Esau wanted to be blessed by God, what does he need to do? He needs to consider God with respect and not marry women that are idolaters and these things. In Genesis 27:33, it says that Isaac trembled violently. What of the items do you think bothered him so much? That he was deceived by his wife as she knew what he loved to eat, and Jacob? Yes, that would have bothered him quite a bit. That he tried to go against God and he ended up making things worse. Definitely that. He should definitely have realized he cannot go against God. That his favorite son now has nothing. That would bother him greatly too. The scriptures continue. Genesis 27:39. His father Isaac answered him, "Your dwelling will be away from the earth's richness, away from the dew of the heaven above. You will live by the sword and you will serve your brother. But when you grow restless, you will throw his yoke from off your neck." The nation of Edom, Idumea, is the nation of Esau. So we see Edom is down there on the bottom there. The region where Edom once stood is now known as Southwest Jordan, a hilly area on the eastern side of the beautiful Jordan River, not considered by God as part of the land of milk and honey. What is the second statement? What is the first statement of blessing of Esau? Your dwelling will be away from the earth's richness. And so the kingdom of Edom is away from the land that's considered Israel. What is the second statement? You will live by sword and you will serve your brother. And we see it 2 Samuel 8:14. He put garrisons throughout Edom, and all the Edomites became subject to David, who is part of the Israelite nation. And what is the last part of the blessing? You will go restless and you will throw his yoke from off your neck. 2 Kings 8:20. In the time of Jehoram, Edom rebelled against Judah and set up its own king. In summary, Edom was an ancient land bordering ancient Israel in what is now southwestern Jordan, between the Dead Sea and the Gulf of Aqaba. Though closely related to the Israelites, they had frequent conflicts with them and were probably subject to them at the time of the Israelite kingdom, which is 11th to 10th century BC. Edom prospered because of its strategic location on the trade route between Arabia and the Mediterranean and its copper industry at Ezen-Geber. Edom and Moab were later conquered by the Nabateans, and the Edomites migrated to southern Judea, where they were known in the New Testament times as Idumeans. And this all comes from Britannica.com. Okay, the scriptures continue. Genesis 27:41. Esau held a grudge against Jacob because of the blessing his father had given him. He said to himself, "The days of mourning for my father are near. Then I will kill my brother Jacob." When Rebekah was told what her older son Esau had said, she sent for her younger son Jacob and said to him, "Your brother Esau is planning to avenge himself by killing you. Now then, my son, do what I say. Flee at once to my brother Laban in Haran." What did Esau feel about his brother after Jacob received both the birthright and the blessing of the firstborn? He had a grudge against him. Esau was going to wait until when to kill his brother after Jacob was died. He's going to have to wait a long time. Isaac will not die until Esau was going to wait until when to kill his brother when his father Isaac died. He's going to have to wait a long time. Isaac will not die until he's 180 years of age. Isaac is 137 years of age during this story. In this case, Rebecca didn't overhear. How did she know the intent of Esau? Uh, hmm. She heard it from someone else. Where is Rebecca going to send Jacob to save his life? To her brother Laban in the area of Haran. Haran is the hill country north called Padan Aram, where Abraham's servant went to find Rebekah for Isaac, and also where Abraham lived before he moved down into Canaan. Rebekah's family, now led by her brother Laban, still lives there. The scriptures continue. Genesis 27:44. Stay with him for a while until your brother's fury subsides. When your brother is no longer angry with you and forgets what you did to him, I'll send word for you to come back from there. Why should I lose both of you in one day? Then Rebekah said to Isaac, I'm disgusted with living because of these Hittite women. If Jacob takes a wife from among the women of this land, from Hittite women like these, my life will not be worth living. How long was Rebekah suggesting that Jacob stay with her brother Laban? For a while, until his brother's anger subsides. When Esau's anger subsides, what will Rebekah then do? I will send word to you to come back. The Bible never states that Rebekah ever sent word to Jacob. Jacob ended up living with Laban for 20 years before returning back to the land of Canaan. What excuse does Rebekah give Isaac regarding Jacob's departure? That she would just die if he married any Hittite women. Who are the Hittite women Rebekah is referring to? She's referring to Esau's wives that bothered her so much. The Bible never shows that Rebekah sees Jacob again before she dies. We come to the end of this chapter and then to the crosswords. Let's see if I can get to it. Yep, okay. Okay, how old was Esau when he married his first two wives? That would be 40. Esau hunts with a quiver and a bow. Number 8, Jacob took both Esau's birthright and also his blessing. Number 11, aside from tasty food, Jacob also brought what food? Bread. Rebekah sent Jacob to her brother Laban. So one down. Isaac mistook Jacob for Esau because he was wearing what? Goat skin. What drink did Jacob bring Isaac with his tasty food? That had been wine. The physical difference between Jacob and Esau is that Esau is hairy and Jacob is smooth. Number 4, what two animals did Rebekah send Jacob to get from the flock? Goats. Number 7, who overheard Isaac send Esau out to get wild game? Rebekah. May God give you heaven's dew and earth's richness, abundance of grain and new wine. And 10, the smell of my son is like the smell of a field the Lord has blessed. So that's the end of this chapter. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you, Del.